Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Assertia On, our informative online series looking into hot topics in the world of digital trust. My name is Mike Hathaway, the Chief Product Officer for Assertia, and today I'm joined, as usual, by John Jolliffe, Product Manager for Assertia Signing Hub.
Hi, Mike. Hi, everyone.
In today's session, we're going to look into a topic that's frequently overlooked and often misunderstood by organizations, enterprises, governments, and many providers actually, that work with e-signatures. That's the hot topic of signature verification. Or to put it another way, how do you know that you can trust a signature weeks, months, or even years after a document or transaction was digitally signed?
Yeah, I think this is a great topic. We spend a lot of time, don't we, thinking about how to create and use different types of signature to ensure compliance. But signature creation is only half the story because you don't just need to trust the signature at the time of signing. You need to know that your business or your organization can rely on that document long into the future. So in this episode, we're going to break down the key concept of trust and signature validation. So, Mike, maybe let's start there. How can we define trust in this context?
Yes, indeed. Well, I guess at its most basic, trust is about the extent to which anyone looking at a signature on a document and they're going to take business decisions or actions upon it can be assured that the signature actually binds to a specific signer, binds the specific signer of the document to the specific content. With regular e-signatures, you have very little information binding the signer to the document. Similar to traditional wet ink signatures, every element of an e-signature can easily be contested if needed. So making it more difficult to defend that signature and the document in a court of law. There's plenty of case law on this sort of thing. It's very much in the realms of it wasn't me, my partner opened my mobile phone. Good luck, good luck arguing that kind of case. Whereas with digital signatures, the signer's identity is verified in line with standards and legislation laid down. And it's cryptographically bound to the document using a personalized digital certificate that's issued to the signer by a trusted source or a trusted third party, such as an employer, a regulated third party, a trust service provider. These are more technically known as a certification authority. And it's the digital certificate used by the signer to sign the document that conveys the trustworthiness of a signature way into the future.
Right. So trust, I think we're saying, is the degree to which you can rely on a signature. And that means that validation is the means by which an organization can reassure itself that the signatures can be trusted. And I think the main message I'd like to get across today is that it's it's not just a technical thing. It is a technical thing, but it's not only that. It's a form of risk management. Organizations can expose themselves to legal risk if they can't prove that a signer is bound to a document. So, Mike, as we go further, what are some of the things an organization might need to validate in a signature? What can go wrong?
Well, signature validation might be needed immediately after a document is signed, or it might be called into question and checked many years later. It might be as simple as needing to know what legal weight the signature has. Is it valid and legally defensible in a particular jurisdiction? Does it need to prove? Does it provide the level of proof that you need? Or it could be that the signer's digital certificate behind the signature could have been revoked, i.e., cancelled. For example, if a TSP that issued the certificate has suffered a security breach, in that case, all certificates issued by the TSP can no longer be considered reliable, a reliable form of confirmation that someone's identity, and so you ultimately have a problem with the signature. Or it could be, simple as the certificate's expired. Digital credentials do have this baked-in expiry date. So as a security mechanism, they expire. Similarly to passports, driver's license, national ID cards, all of these forms of identity have to expire and are refreshed. So unless the TSP is using a signature type that includes a document timestamp that's refreshed, this is there to extend the life of the signature way into the future beyond the expiration date of the user's signing credential. So we've covered a lot of this in an Assertia on episode previously around the signature types and the type of signature you're going to use to determine how far into the future a signature can be relied upon.
Okay, so that explains why organizations should care about signature validation. But to understand how signature validation takes place, we need to first remind ourselves of the technical building blocks that go into creating a digital signature. We cover this in detail in an earlier episode of Assertia On, so I won't go into the detail here, but just to give a quick refresher, there are three concepts that we need to bear in mind. The first is the type of digital certificate used. Then there's the format of the digital signature. And then there's the chain of trust. All these three elements play into providing the information, which is then later used to validate the signature. Now, Mike, tell us how these elements are actually used to perform signature validation.
Okay, so any business application that needs to process and make trust decisions about a signed document or a digital or digital identity needs to assess all of these elements in order to decide what to do. So this is an extremely complicated process that requires business applications, operating systems to perform and validate in line with its own logic. And all of this happens, invisibly to us users. We're kind of sat there, we open a document, we want to verify a signature. All of this happens under the covers. So it kind of is a nod to the complexity of public key infrastructure. So firstly, all of the certificates in the chain that are available within the business application needs to trust them in some kind of trust store. Or if it doesn't have them, it needs the ability to go away and retrieve them. And this is going to use information within each of the certificates in order to do that. So you've got to make sure that when you create those certificates up front, all of those pointers, all of those URLs, etc., are correct. Next, the business application has to make sure that all of the certificates that it finds and can discover are within their validity period. And if they aren't, can the business application get access to the next certificate that's been issued and use linking to build trust between them, which is a completely separate topic in its own right. It then needs to check that the certificate that's been used to sign the document has the appropriate extensions required to sign. So certificates have lots of characteristics about them, one of which is, okay, this certificate can be used for A, B, and C purposes. And many people try to use certificates inappropriately, or sometimes they issue certificates with inappropriate extensions in them. And then finally, the business application has to work out whether the certificate used to sign the document is an end entity certificate and not a certification authority, a timestamp authority. There are many things and entities that use keys and certificates. So the business application must make sure, or must do its best to ensure that it's an actual end entity, a human being, a business application using the certificate appropriately. So ADSS Server has the capabilities to simplify the signature verification process. So we've got our own verification service, aptly named, that does all of this heavy lifting behind the background. So a client application can send the verification service everything it needs to then get the results back from a signed document or a PDF. And then next you have the EU Trust List Monitor service. So this is purpose built to automatically ensure that you've got everything you need to verify a signature. So I talked about making sure you've got CA certificates and the trust chain and being able to make sure these things are within their validity period. Well, this service then goes beyond that by automatically going out and downloading certificates into ADSS Server to make sure you've got everything you need from EU-based trust service providers to perform signature verification. And Signing Hub as a business application sitting on top leverages ADSS Server and this verification capability to perform real-time signature verification. So this gives operators of Signing Hub some truly uniquely powerful capabilities to deliver signature verification.
Yeah, this is not available in other e-signature applications. It's built in to Signing Hub. It's pretty clear that this is a complicated business, as it should be, because there's a lot riding on it. You need good technology and good processes if you want to be able to trust a signature and rely on a document. But I often think that users only really think about signature validation when they get a negative something that actually raises a question mark about a document.
I agree. I think that's right. I mean, although it can be annoying and frustrating, it's obviously it's incredibly helpful if your signature validation highlights a genuine risk in the underlying signature. It's there to protect you at the end of the day. You really need to and want to know when a document can't be relied upon. For example, that the certificate used to sign it is expired, or maybe the certificate has been revoked, or that it's not the right level of trust. All sorts of bad things can and will happen if you mistakenly rely on a document that can't be defended on a court, or doesn't comply with a policy, or doesn't comply with the legislation for the type of document or contract.
Right. And another frustration with signature validation is that you can actually get false negatives. The signature might not show as valid when it actually is. And that can happen for a number of reasons. Signature verification means that applications are accessing lists that specify which certificates can be trusted. Now, the most common form of validating a signature that the man in the street might know about is opening a document in Adobe Acrobat. You get that blue bar along the top telling you about the certificate. And that's only possible because Adobe has built signature validation into its Acrobat and Reader products. In other words, without opening a browser, you can receive a PDF and validate the signatures offline against both the AATL list that we mentioned before and the EU trusted list, which covers all the QTSPs in the EU. But that's not the end of it. There are other trust lists that don't work in Adobe products. Take the online Swiss trusted list, for example, or maybe Japanese one, or the European Commission DSS online signature validation. There's some differences in the way that online validation services parse the different trust components in a document. And all of that means that there isn't yet just one place where any relying party can go to validate any digital signature or document format.
Yeah, that's right. Although it's rare, I mean, the absence or lack of harmonization can create some considerable challenges for organizations. If your signature if your signature or a document is signed but shows up as invalid in some verification service, you have to jump through a number of additional hoops to explain to the relying party and to prove that the evidence of why the signature is valid, which partly undermines the business case for using digital signatures in the first place, which are meant to kind of being presumed and provide legal reliability.
Yeah. Now, the good news for Signing Hub customers, as you were already alluding to, is that Signing Hub relies on the signature verification capabilities of Asserty's ADSS server. So Asserty users will always be able to independently validate the digital signatures in their documents without relying on any external desktop software. Signing Hub also has a QR code signature validation feature, which enables anyone receiving a document to click or scan and link to a web service from Asserty that details all the signature validation information, meaning you've got that sort of offline, online link. And so all in all, that means that the signature validation capability is really one of the key differentiators of Signing Hub compared to other signing applications, hence why we wanted to talk about it today.
That's amazing. Well, thanks again, John. I think we've covered a lot of ground in a very short time. We've broken down the elements that go into signature verification, tried our best to explain how applications use this to work out if they can trust a document. And I'm sure you'll agree there's a lot of hidden complexity that goes on that we as business users and business applications don't show you, and it happens very quickly. We've covered ground on how validation is important for organizations and how Signing Hub truly has some unique capabilities that set it apart from other signing applications. So that's it for this edition. Thanks everyone for listening, and we hope you found this discussion informative and helpful. Please share any comments or get in touch if you have any further questions, and we hope to welcome you in a future edition of Assertia On in the near future.